a long call.
Every single day the dollar keeps going down. We talk about prices going up. Prices don't go up. The value of the dollar goes down. Of course, that translates into higher prices. So the easiest place in the world for us to get a handle on what's happening in this country, I think, is in foreign policy. Because there are a lot of programs that shouldn't have been started in this country, but we've made a lot of our people dependent on these programs. And there's no sense in putting people out in the street here at home. There's still enough wealth if we do the right things. But it would require changing something. To me, it's changing foreign policy, and we could start by just bringing our troops home. Of course, I'm not talking about just the Middle East. Why do we have troops in Korea after 60 years or so? Why do we have troops in Japan since World War II? Why are we defending Europe? We're going broke and we have troops in Europe. If we had our troops here at home, they'd be spending all that money here at home and helping our own economy. In the mid-1990s, there was a revamping of our bases around the world, and especially around the country. What we were doing, we were closing bases down there in this country, and there were some small bases. And the argument was they were inefficient, and there might have been some argument to that. Except I opposed it all the time, even though I'm the most fiscally conservative member of Congress. I opposed it because I thought it would represent a bad policy. And the policy was that we would close down bases here at home at the same time we were building bases overseas. And that didn't make any sense. While we were closing bases down here in ports and all around our country, we were building bases like in Saudi Arabia. And the base in Saudi Arabia was especially antagonistic to the Muslims of that region, saw this as a religious affront on their holy land, and led to a lot of problems. Matter of fact, it was given as one of the main reasons why they finally got enough suicide terrorists to come here and hit us. But the principle is why spend this money overseas? That money should be here. If we change our foreign policy, we can have a stronger military. Our military is weak. Our equipment is in poor shape. People don't want to join. Today, I just talked to a young man that went through the academy, served his 5 years, and got out. He thought. Now he's called back up again. Yep. They've been re-upped time and time again. They go over on a third trip, 12 months, and then they stay for 15 months, and it goes on and on. Coming home actually helps build up our national defense. Not only that, it reduces the threat of terrorism, and not only that, it's the only fiscally sane thing to do is to stop this war. The war was unnecessary. It was based on false pretense. There were no weapons of mass destruction. It was totally unrelated to 9/11. There was no Al-Qaeda there. And here we're staying over and over. We're staying in this country, and now it's time that we just come home. By doing this, we can save a lot of money, enough to cut the deficit, at the same time take care of the people here at home, at the same time start allowing people out of some of these programs that they don't need to be in. I'd like to see a time where we saved enough money to at least allow the next generation to opt out of Social Security. That's what I would like to see. But we need to do it rather quickly because we need restoration of confidence in the dollar, because when a currency is totally destroyed, it's destroyed because confidence is lost, and right now the confidence is dwindling in the currency. The undermining of the currency has happened for years and years and years, but there was a false confidence because we were the richest and the strongest nation in the world. But now we are being attacked. Now, the great empires of all history have been undermined eventually for economic reasons, not military reasons. They finally self-destruct, even the Soviet system in our lifetime. Soviet system, we didn't have to go after and invade the Soviets. They had 40,000 nuclear weapons and we didn't have to fight them, but they collapsed because they had a non-viable system. And what I'm concerned about is our system, although not totalitarian in the same sense of the word, we're losing our freedoms, we're undermining our financial system, and we indeed are under threat. So do we wait until we have that crisis, or we come to our senses? And this is what my argument has been, and why I think we have to have a change in direction. But what we need is a more confidence in ourselves that freedom really works. You know, freedom works when we allow it. This idea that if the government isn't there to take care of us and tell us how to live, and the government doesn't tell us how to be virtuous and how to strive for excellence, that we won't do it. No, it is true. In a free society, there will be some that might not do it. But that's their business, and they should suffer their own consequences. To assume this role of promoting virtue and excellence on the individual and perfect equality in the economy, and then of course using force to try to tell other countries how to be like us, it just doesn't work. It's doomed to fail. There's nothing wrong for America to strive to spread the goodness of America, because there's a lot of goodness in America, and our traditions are great. We know about free markets and sound money and private property and a strong defense and friendship with other countries, but we've lost that. And now what we've done is, instead of setting an example, that's how we should spread our goodness, by setting an example. We use force, and then we ruin our example. Now we're not an example for the world. Now we're seen around the world as the country that has secret prisons that are involved in torture and undermine our liberties at home. War, as Randolph Bourne said, is the health of the state. It is indeed, when you have this wartime mentality throughout history, especially in our country, even from World War I on, we've been so easily enticed to giving up our liberties. And since 9/11 and the war going on in Iraq, so much has been sacrificed. Our privacy is gone. Right now, we're on the verge of a program that I think we have to absolutely prevent from coming, and that is the national ID card. Yeah. Some states have resisted the national ID card, which is called the real ID card, but it's our driver's license. And the states have voted to opt out, and our government says that's okay. We won't force it on anybody because it's voluntary. But guess what it means to be voluntary? If you don't do it, you can't get on an airplane. And you can't get in a federal building. You can't go to the post office or do anything. You can't get in a building, and you can't get on an airplane unless your state, any state, gets into the program. And this real ID card is an internal passport. It means that the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security can put anything he decides he wants in that computer chip without permission of the Congress. That's how negligent Congress and the President has been in allowing this authority to become law. So there's a lot at stake here. It's what has made America great, and that is our freedoms. We have become complacent, believing that material well-being provided by the government is a possibility, which it isn't. But people, because they have gotten some protection from the government, they think that is the purpose of government. And we have forgotten about where wealth and prosperity comes from. It comes from free individuals having the incentive to go out and take care of themselves and their family and their friends and their neighbors. But at this time, we now have become too dependent on the federal government. Except in this last year, I think we've had a revival of this issue about what freedom is all about. A year ago, I was very skeptical. I did not want to do this. I believed there would be nobody that would respond, and the young people didn't know about it, and they didn't care. But let me tell you, in the last year, I found out there are a lot of people like you out there. It's just not large crowds in rooms like this, but around the country. And the one unmeasured thing in this campaign, and I see this every single day, because we would always like to be doing a lot better in the elections. But let me tell you, when we go and we talk to you, you can't imagine how much sympathy, understanding, and encouragement we get from people from the other campaigns. They're softening up, they're listening, and they're very open to these views. So regardless of exactly what comes out, it doesn't matter. I think something has been started that won't stop regardless. We can look at this as a beginning rather than an end.